r/AskReddit Redditors who left companies that non-stop talk about their amazing culture. What was the cringe moment that made you realize you had to get out? Had a wall of crazy where the CEO wanted to spend $20K on cool and edgy stuff for the office and staff could make suggestions. Slides, beanbags, napping pods, etc. Project was scrapped when the top suggestions ended up being desks, chairs, working heating, working Wi-Fi, health insurance. Hearing our CEO say compensation is only one part of the employment experience during an earnings call when he was answering complaints about underpaying his employees, after we reported record profits. Literally the most important part. I learned at an internship that we work hard and play hard means we want you to work 75-hour weeks. But sometimes we'll put donuts in the break room, but sometimes we'll put donuts in the break room, if there are any leftovers from client meetings. Not my company but a company from a neighboring building. They had an entire area devoted to foosball, pinball, billiards, console gaming, and video booths on the ground floor, and it was clearly visible because of the glass windows on street level. Oddly enough, nobody ever used them, and the place was almost always empty save for a few people who use the internet kiosks. When I learned a friend worked there, I asked why nobody would want to take the opportunity to use the awesome-looking recreational facility. He told me that people who do use the facility often found it used against them during performance evaluations, even when their use wasn't excessive at all. After a while word got around and they started avoiding the place altogether. The irony is that their recruitment ads always touts a culture of work hard, play hard. The place I am just about to leave. Handed in my notice last week. Bought a pool table for the breakout space earlier in the year. It's horrible and cheap and not fun to play on anyway. I've seen colleagues get ushered back to their desks part way through a game at 12.59 because they were in danger of overstaying their lunch break. They always make sure to show potential new hires that they have it though. They also bought an Xbox with no games and then complained about wasting money because nobody is using it. We have a great culture. Lots of team lunches and drinks. When I started, our boss had banned the social club, birthday celebrations or recognition of birthdays. Strictly no cake. Taken away the Christmas party, the Christmas break period, and tried to stop people talking to each other. All the while she'd take every second day off, and have long weekends every weekend. We had maybe 3 team lunches in the time I was there, and she always made sure to tell us that we wouldn't be paid for anything over our lunch break. Even though she came too, we had to submit manual timesheet corrections to remove the amount we took. It's like, okay, fair enough, but can't you just let it slide? It's not your money and we're talking maybe 20 minutes here. A client also invited me to their Christmas party due to our close relationship and my good work on their files, and she called them and told them I wasn't allowed to go. She told me it was because she was concerned I might reflect badly on the department. Ironic, really. Reminds me of a manager I had in a garbage retail job. But he actually encouraged us to have potlucks, saying it would make us feel more like a team. Then the day of said potlucks, he would get paranoid if more than 2 people were there eating, claiming there weren't enough people out making sales, and that if we wanted to sit in the back and eat, We should all stagger our lunch breaks to do so. Trying to figure out how exactly this was supposed to be team building again if no one was allowed to be there when anyone else was. But okay. He would also be angry if we were ever speaking to our coworkers in general. So I don't get what he thought promoted teamwork about being chastised for having any sort of amicable discourse with coworkers. Lush. When we couldn't say bathroom on the shop floor and instead had to ask a manager for serenity. I think I would just go around yelling serenity now. I worked at B&Q and one of my colleagues was stabbed 30 times by a customer. I was completely shaken. The next morning we were taken into a big room and made to sign a document saying we wouldn't sue them. If we didn't sign, we'd lose our jobs. Also, my colleague was stabbed only a month after they got rid of our security guard to save money. Edit. Since so many people have asked. He did survive. He lost an eye and now limps. But he's alive at least. Edit 2. B&Q is essentially British Home Depot. This happened a couple of weeks ago, when HR sent out an email to management, excluding me and about 2 other people, telling them to fraudulently leave good reviews on Glassdoor and to coerce others to do the same. Edit. I'm not exactly on a throwaway, so I'm going to refrain from mentioning the company at this time. However, it looks like this is a common issue and there needs to be a better way to call this out. Was at a fast casual restaurant for a couple months and the GM always talked about the culture. You know what's a great culture? When the morning shift and night shift have their daily screaming matches over stuff that they each accused the other one of needing to do. It was impressive just how incompetent the entire company was, from ownership down. Not me. But my husband worked for 2 weeks for a family-owned and operated business that touted how important family was and that they were all one happy family. My husband was on his way to drop our at the time 2-year-old son off at daycare before work when son threw up all over himself. Husband called his employer to tell them what happened and that he needed to take son home and clean him up but he'd be in ASAP. His manager told him he needed to get his priorities straight. He responded with, "You know what? You're right. I won't be back in at all." He was still working part-time at his previous job where they had been sad that he was leaving. So he called them and told them to put him back on the schedule full-time. The family business is currently in the process of liquidating assets before going out of business and I cackle every time I drive past it. At my last job I had management try to tell me that I couldn't have Easter weekend off because we were too busy. Mind you, on Easter weekend my daughter, 3, was having a surgery and I had been telling them about it for around 6 months in advance. Then when it came up and I was scheduled, I went to the store manager who said, "Ugh, can't your mom just take her?" That's the first and only time in my adult life I've actually screamed at another human being. I pride myself on being level-headed. Not that day though. I ended up getting the weekend off, but had to work 9 straight after in retaliation. Last year I was working as a subcontractor and I was assigned a new place of work. Just 2 weeks after I started, the new boss wanted to hire me. He put down the contract where, compared to my current contract, pay was down 25%. Average weekly hours went up by 20%. Vacation days went down by 10% and I wouldn't have a company car for personal use anymore. Before he actually handed me the contract to read it, he said, "I will only make you this offer once, but it's only valid if you change all your pictures on your social media and you sell your car. It's too flashy for our company. How about no?" When I went to firm drinks in a public bar and the firm's fund committee handed out song sheets and a choir of employees led by a bad guitarist sang a song about how great the firm was to the tune of "'Cause I'm Happy," we were expected to sing along. It was at that moment I realized I was in a cult. When I had to phone around to the corporation leaders to find out why none of the mechanics I had interviewed were hired. The mechanics had come from all over the country, and some had waited patiently for months to know if they got the job or not. Turned out the CEO had changed his mind and wanted me to take care of all mechanic work. I was a factory manager, but they knew I'd be upset, so neither he, HR, or the COO wanted to be the one to tell me. My district manager told me to talk my key holder out of going back to college. Mind you, she wanted to be a doctor. They were proud that no one had degrees. That's fine, but I'm not working 45+ hours a week and mandatory holidays just to sell some shoes. The loyalty my coworkers had were so cringy. They didn't understand how we were being taken advantage of because we didn't get our degrees. Anyways, F you. Going back to school was the best decision I've made. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more Reddit content.